When you talk about finding yourself as a footballer, a lot of that discovery, that process happens
Love
in
it.
preseason.
I know Dallas is upset. They lost Luka Doncic. They're mad at their GM, Nico Harrison, but they have another GM in Dallas, Andre Zanotta. I want to make sure we spend some time talking about Weston James Earl McKennie, American professional soccer player.
His level of production, consistency, versatility, being in the starting lineup for one of the best teams in the world, full stop, is unprecedented.
I think the biggest thing is preparing your body. I think when we're younger, you're so excited to get there that you might forget some steps. So, at my age, recovery is important.
You're young and old at the same time. That's what's crazy about sports.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
We are back and we are better. New Ground on SiriusXM FC channel 157, your home, the epicenter for melanin-rich conversations about life, footy, soccer, whatever you call it. We hope that each and every time you plug in that you find yourself in our show. So glad you could join us. Allen Hopkins Jr., Jalil Anibaba. Jalil, how you living this week?
Yo, I'm blessed. I'm chilling. It's a vibe. And what you say in terms of your tagline to start the show, I hope each and every one of our viewers, our listeners, they find themselves in the show. I couldn't agree more. When you talk about finding yourself as a footballer, a lot of that discovery, that process happens in preseason. And a lot of that discovery, it's crucial to who players are as footballers. But most importantly, through my experience, it's how you become to define yourself as a person. And if you're going about the career in the right way, you define yourself as somebody who is aspiring to be the greatest that they can be. And the way that I was taught is you do that also by having a balanced life so that football also fits into each and every facet of your life. And that's what we're all about here on New Ground as well.
Football is what you do, is not who you are. And that was a lesson and very important for my parents to instill in me. And I think that's apropos. And as Jalil always does, this is why he's one of the best in the business, folks. He gives you a little feeling for what the show is going to be like. We will close the curtain on the preseason as this time next week, we'll be counting down to match day 1 in the 2025, the 30th MLS campaign. Also on this show is Weston McKennie, the most informed U.S. men's national team player, as he scored an incredible goal in the Champions League. We are less than 500 days away from the 2026 U.S. men's national team World Cup opener, and New Ground gives you our U.S. men's national team starting 11 in a way that only our show, in a way that only Jalil and I can do. We'll also tap in to the smooth Valentine's Day man himself, all love, Jalil Anibaba. A couple little tips for those who are trying to pull it together on Valentine's Day. And joining us to cover New Ground this week, none other than Mark Anthony Kaye. Mac joins us from Coachella as he gets ready for his first season in San Jose, back on the West Coast. So he had a lot of success with LAFC. We look forward to that conversation being central to our preseason conversation. But first, Jalil, old faces, new places, one last time. What an incredible offseason it has been. And the MLS hot stove season has coincided with a wintry mix all over the United States of America. I can't remember this many transactions happening from team to team. And that is because so many mechanisms, so many things have come to life. But first and foremost, I know Dallas is upset. They lost Luka Doncic. They're mad at their GM, Nico Harrison, but they have another GM in Dallas, Andre Zanotta, pulling off one of the best and biggest, I would say, opening day eve transactions I can remember in a long time, as they acquire Lucho Acosta from FC Cincinnati, your 2023 MLS MVP. $5 million with a potential extra $1 million in performance-based incentives. one of the largest cash for player trades in MLS history, Jalil. Significant for FC Dallas because it's a landmark signing for that organization, a real number 10. His talent, his leadership should be very, very impactful for FC Dallas. And for FC Cincinnati, they lose a key player, a big part of what they've done over the last couple of years to surge to the top of the Eastern Conference. The two-time MLS All-Star, one of only 6 players in league history with 3 or more seasons of at least 10 goals and 10 assists. Wow. You talk about making moves. You talk about standing on business. What do you think about that transaction from your lens and your perspective?
First of all, is needed. It was needed. Lucho Acosta and FC Cincinnati seem to have, kind of fallen off of the same page in recent months.
Why do you think that is?
And I don't know. I'm not.
Fair
I'm not
enough.
in the club. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not there every day. And it would be unfair for me to speculate as to why. And the reason why I always take that position when it comes to things like this is because I've been inside locker rooms for essentially my entire adult life up to this point in time. And you do not know unless you're around day to day. And sometimes even when you're around day to day, you still don't know.
You still won't
So
know. That's what I said.
I've never been one of those people now who is on this side of things in terms of having a mic or a camera and X, Y, and Z. And now I get up and I start trying to act like I know things that I don't know. And I also try to give reverence to the people who are involved. Nobody wants to be spoken about in a way that misrepresents what actually went down behind the scenes. But what I do know is that when a relationship deteriorates, it's best for, you know, people to part ways. And what I am selfishly still happy about is the fact that Luciano Acosta is still in MLS. We still get to see him ball on a day-to-day basis. And this is a piece that FC Dallas has been needing, and even more it's a more intimate need that you have Paul Arriola and Jesus Ferreira out of the door going to Seattle. So the prospect of now what Eric Quill has at his ability and his arsenal on the offensive side of things makes Dallas very, very exciting. And now a lot more focus league wide will be on what Dallas is able to do this year.
Lucci, as we mentioned, the MVP, led FC Cincinnati to their first playoff appearance in 22, their first Supporters Shield in 23. And for me, the trade, and I love my roster construction, nerd alert, but it really does highlight the growing trend of cash for player trades in Major League Soccer. And when I was working in the league office few years ago, I was very adamant that when this sort of would take on a life of its own, interleague transactions, just like the NFL, just like the NBA, just like MLB, it would really kind of cinch the league together. Of course, we're still going to be an international transaction-oriented organization, enterprise, if you will, Major League Soccer. But the reality is that when teams start dealing with each other, it just sort of adds a level of just intrigue and suspense. And you get a lot of, this player was able to do this in this market. Can he replicate it in this market? So I think that's big. And I think for FC Dallas, is the first time they've had a best 11 player in their 11 in a minute, I think, for a variety of reasons. So good on for them. I also think for an owner like the Hunt family, these sort of new transaction mechanisms are very clear. Hey, I can pay $5 million for this player, maybe 6 if he gets all his incentives. And that's an easier way to do business as opposed to some of the convoluted and now sort of outgoing mechanisms for rosters. Another club, by the way, for them, for FC Dallas, you talk about a complete overhaul. That is their 16th new signing this offseason. Only New England has 17. So you talk about really overhauling your roster. Dallas and New England did it more than anyone else. Another club that has been very busy overhauling their roster, the 10th new player acquisition / sighting for the champs, the LA Galaxy, Christian Ramirez He leaves your old club, the Columbus Crew. He's going back to California, where he kind of made a name for himself coming up. Won 2 MLS Cups with the Crew. Ramirez, 10 goals in 36 MLS regular season games. Dejan Jovic has gone out. So it seems like a bit of a like for like in terms of that type of player, but clearly another key player lost for the Columbus Crew. They don't seem to be too worried about it. The fees weren't really disclosed that time. But what do you think about that transaction? Chris Ramirez, a known commodity in the LA Galaxy fold for the first time.
Well, shout out Will Kuntz for getting that done because that's a good move from LA Galaxy's perspective. And you also
Agreed.
have to think all of the recent moves that Columbus has been making in the last, let's call it 3.5 years, that it was beneficial for what they're trying to accomplish as well. So when you talk about Christian Ramirez, you're talking about somebody who has the ability to deliver organizational changing moments for you. He can score big goals in big moments. He can score goals for you when it seems like the well is completely dry, and he's proven it time and time again in this league. Whether it was when he came into the MLS fold, if you will, as an expansion team with Minnesota back in the day, don't forget he had a stint in LA as well on the other side of that rivalry with LAFC. But where people are really going to think of Christian Ramirez balling in MLS, from what I would like to think, would be with Columbus most recently. If you're an LA Galaxy fan, you should be very, very excited about him now being into the fold. I just like what he also offers in the locker room as well, the type of professional that he is. He's a connector. He can really, make that LA locker room continue to have players that know what it means to win in this league, but can also bring different, meal room conversations together as
That's
one
right.
cohesive unit. And I always love players that can do that, but most importantly, they're top ballers as well.
I already know the answer to this question, but I want the people to hear it. Were you the type of player who could eat each and every meal with a different table if you wanted to?
Yeah, unless that table has some people that were just bad actors, then I ain't vibing with you. And to be honest, I was very fortunate where the teams that I played for, that wasn't really something that I had to really duck
Navigate.
and
Yeah.
maneuver and navigate. Most of the
Smart.
teams that I played for, it was like, yo, the locker room was lit. And yes,
Yeah.
I was that guy where,
Yeah.
I'm more likely than not, I'm sit with my boys.
Of
But
course.
I
Of
could
course.
vibe with whoever.
That's right.
I could sit with the Spanish dudes because my could don't let me get my Spanish bag because it's popping. I could sit with the American dudes because my mom from Cali. I could sit with the Africans because my dad's from Nigeria. He's from Lagos,
That's right.
Nigeria. I could sit
Yeah.
with
Yep.
with the
With
brothers
everyone.
from the block because again,
Yep.
my mom from Vallejo. So it's it's those types of things that are innate to my personality, but also to my background that afforded me the ability to do that and move in that way. But also too, I'm social. I like people and I like being around and learning different stories and different ways to do very complex things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
would tap into those vibes, but don't get it twisted. If that table has laughs and I'm not at that table, best
You
believe
want to be
next
at that
dinner I'm
table?
sitting there.
That's what I'm
Absolutely,
saying. I figured as much,
absolutely.
the coaches table, the staff table isn't as much fun, but you can also, if you're on a good team, there's a lot of camaraderie that is built in the meal room, and the meal times are very, very important. And I think that's a big part of it for sure. And I think for fans who are tapping into the show, I think it's very clear that if you don't have a team of good dudes in your locker room, you're not going to win in MLS in 2025. That's just paramount. Spent a lot of time around the galaxy. We wish Joseph Paintsel speedy recovery. He's out for 6 to 8 weeks with an injury. So Ramirez is certainly, if he's going to make an impact, this would be a really good time for him, with Ricky Puig as well on the shelf. But I really do like what Greg Vanney and that whole situation is turning out to be. Shout out to Will Kuntz. as well. Let's change gears here slightly. I want to make sure we spend some time talking about Weston James Earl McKennie, American professional soccer player for Serie A club Juventus and the U.S. men's national team. He scored an incredible goal this week in the Champions League. And I texted Jalil and I said, I feel like this is his team. And Jalil said, hey, to be fair, he's kind of always been balling at that level. But I said, no, I feel like now he controls the music. He's deciding where we're going out as a team, what we're doing. Like, not just because he's got the captain's armband, but the way the team plays around him. And the question I pose to you in a year in which Christian Pulisic has been outstanding, without a doubt, but and Jedi Robinson, again, another player we give a lot of love to, has been outstanding. Is West the best informed player right now we have in the U.S. men's national team? And if so, why?
I don't like questions like that because it's like, is it either or? I don't give two
Right.
what's.
I don't think it has to be an or. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but what I know is that Weston is balling and has been balling, and his level of production, consistency, versatility, being in the starting lineup for one of the best teams in the world, full stop, is unprecedented. I don't care about age. I don't care about the fact that he's American. I don't care about none of that. It's the fact that Weston McKennie is a player that does not get the credit he deserves, in my opinion. Because to be
Agreed.
a versatile player, that typically is a double-edged sword. That typically leads you to be phased out faster than it actually leads you to stay on the field more. But it's literally like when you watch Weston play right back, he plays right back like a right back. When you watch him play six, he plays six like a six. When he plays eight like an eight. When he plays winger, he looks like a winger. When he plays 10, he looks like a 10. Come on, man. The goal that he just scored against PSV, top bins, boom, pick it out. And it's just so inspiring to myself. It should be to all young fellow American ballers to be able to come out of an MLS academy, youth ranks before that. You can go and play Champions League. These are not like things that parents are just saying to their kids now, and it's like, just as encouragement, it's like, nah, look. Turn on TV, look.
That's right.
And when you know
Speak on it.
you know somebody who's lighthearted, who's jovial at the right times, but extremely serious, extremely professional.
That's right.
And again, it's inspiring to the point where you used his whole government, bruh.
Like I just put respect on his name because let's be real here. When Leeds left him off their preseason U.S. tour, that was when people were selling McKennie stock, and calling him an outcast. But when I see Thiago Motta, his coach, say, hey, Weston is special. He's a great player and a great guy. Come on now. Right. And it was really that which got me really excited about what is really kind of starting to come together. And if people are going to think seriously about 2026 and what we can and can't do, a big part of it is like, who's going to be the 11? Who's going to be the core? Who's going to be the 14? Who's in form? I'm on my Mike Tomlin. The standard is the standard. And at the end of the day, you need to have world-class players to compete at a World Cup. And right now, I think the U.S. men's national team has 4 world-class players that are doing their thing. Jedi Robinson, we just mentioned Wes. Obviously, Christian Pulisic continues to even get through the ups and downs of the attrition of the season. Even when he's not able to start, he's having an impact. And then you and I were also talking a couple weekends ago about looked like Tyler Adams is back, got his mojo and his game back. So for me, those are the 4 players. If we're going to do the starting 11 picture, we have 4 spaces we filled in: Jedi, Wes, Christian, and Tyler. I don't think there's anyone else yet who has put themselves in that picture. But those 4 players, in my opinion, have been outstanding, and players that if they're in the 11 next summer, next June, I think the U.S. will very much feel like they can get a result. Is there anyone else you think I left off? And I would say of those 4 players, Jedi, Wes, and Christian and Tyler, how are you feeling about them sort of being at that level where they're not just going to be the best for our country, but be out there balling and trying to get wins and results in the tournament?
I vibe with what you're talking about, maybe like 95%. I think Wea is is
Okay.
is in
Okay.
that is in that upper echelon too, where none of us are speaking for
Okay.
Pochettino, but as long as he's healthy, you can't keep him off that that either 11 or very, very close to it.
Is he
What I
there
what I
right
love
now, though? That's kind of my point, though. Like, I'm talking about right this moment, not sort of projecting, but like, I'm balling. The World Cup starts tomorrow. I'm going to be one of the best players in the tournament. That's the standard I'm thinking of, not like sort of
one of the best players in the tournament. Okay. Eh,
like for
I
us, like that's what the US is going to need, in my opinion, to make
I
a
agree, I agree.
run. Their players are going to have to be overperforming, if you will, their ability to help us win these tough matches.
Yeah, from that standpoint, those 4 are clearly the cream of the crop as far as ability, form, uh, in good stead, and ballin'. And when you talk about in their respective leagues and Champions League, they're also playing at a clip where they're being talked about amongst the best in world football. Yes, I do agree that
Yep.
those 4 are solidified. I think when you look at Weston and Christian and Jedi, I would say, they've been doing it for a little bit longer than Tyler Adams only because of availability. So I like how things are shaping up for those 4, and if you have to close your eyes and pick any one of those 4 to be a flag bearer for the United States, I'm very happy about what that could potentially look like.
Yeah, it looks like those 4 players have clearly separated themselves, and we want to keep track, and it'll be something that Jill and I will continue to fill it out until we have our 11 for June of next year. Because the reality is that it's not that far away, and injuries and form and all that stuff. I gotta say something too, real quick, to tag that. Josh Sargent looks like he's getting back healthy, and he's been having some very productive moments as well. And he's been a player that's been a part of the pool. So we'll see if he can be one of those hot nines, because there's certainly going to always be room for a player who gets hot at the right time, who does something as specific and as important as score goals. So we'll definitely keep tabs on that for sure. Before we step aside and get into the last part of preseason and our time with Mark Anthony Kaye, looking forward to chopping up with Mac. You know, Jalil, for some folks who are going to be consuming this show, it's going to be late in the Valentine's Day game. But for someone like you, who
Mhm.
always, Valentine's Day is every day, I'm sure, in your house. So any last minute ideas, any little like toppers, any little things you think of, like, hey, I'm going to put the listeners on something they haven't thought about, or just more a mentality you want to make sure you convey to people who are looking to make sure that a Friday Valentine's Day comes off for them.
A Friday Valentine's Day comes off for him. Well, first of all, it's Thursday night, so you're late if you're planning right now. But rest assured, for all of y'all who sometimes are go with the flow, or maybe got a busy life and you need to make sure you lock something in for your significant other, on the late tip, all hope is not lost for you.
Okay, what you got
So
for
you
us?
can never go wrong with same day order flowers.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Us dudes, we like flowers too. Sometimes the ladies, they don't quite think about that. Sometimes we like flowers too.
I
So you
love
can never go
flowers.
wrong. Exactly. You can never go wrong. If you have maybe forgotten whatever it is, you need a last minute thing. Find the florist that's going to do same day or next day delivery. Boom, flowers. You all right.
You're all right. You're all right. No, that's a good shout. You can't ever go wrong with flowers and just being present. I think that's always important too, and to try to lock in for sure. But no, we appreciate everyone who spends their time uh, game planning, maybe what they're going to watch on the weekend, storylines they're going to follow. But we want to make sure that when you're tapping in for some footy, that we can put you on game for other things to make everything all right as well. Because rest assured, this summer when you're trying to watch your 800th game in a row, the equity you build on Valentine's Day is going to allow you to watch all the footy you need over the summer and all the matches you're going to try to consume as well. So the love Dr. Jalil is in the house, so we appreciate him as well. When we come back, we get into the last parts, closing the curtain on the 2025 MLS preseason. We get a recap from Florida, a recap for Coachella, and we also spend some time joining us this week to cover some new ground. Mark Anthony Kaye, same great player, new market in San Jose. We chop it up with him. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. You're listening to New Ground on SiriusXM FC channel 157. The 2025 MLS preseason is coming to a close. We close the curtain on what has been a lot of work, and as Jalil has told us throughout, it's much easier to go through the preseason grind. We're not grinding on the field for sure. I spent time in Coachella seeing what's happening on the West Coast. Jalil was out there in Clearwater, Florida on the East Coast. And before we get into our conversation with Mark Anthony Kaye and we get into preseason for him and his new market and same coach, but new threads and new logo on the kit in San Jose. Preseason, you said something earlier that I thought was so insightful in terms of how you measure preseason. And I was talking to one of the good guys in the league, longtime guy, Jim Liston. He's director of performance for the LA Galaxy. He was with Toronto and has been around U.S. men's national team. And he reminded me what a poor preseason the Galaxy had last year. And of course, they had the confetti fall on them and winning MLS Cup at home in Carson. And I was taught that preseason is important, but it doesn't matter. How do you feel about preseason in terms of how it really does give you a sense or a gauge or how a group is moving? And what are you really looking for that will signal that things are headed in a right direction? Because every club, all 30 clubs, want to get off to a very positive start.
Yeah, what will signify a successful preseason, in my experience and from my viewpoint, is roster construction and being able to get enough guys, new guys into the door that you need to make your team complete in at a time where you can get them fit and ready for the season in a way that fits into your overall plan to be as competitive as you can be. And why that's so important, and it's more important than the results, is because like you spoke about last year, LA Galaxy did not have a good preseason and they win MLS Cup. Preseason results can be elusive. I've been in preseason camps where you have an excellent preseason results wise, and then you stumble out the gate for whatever reason. It's hard to describe, and vice versa. Preseason for me
Well
is
said.
about getting fit, making sure your roster is in a competitive state or at least moving in that direction, and then making sure that your philosophies in terms of how you want to play are crystal clear to your players.
I had a great time, was on with WTF and Jason Davis and Eric Winalda last week, and they were asking for my insights on what was happening in Coachella. And first and foremost, what a vibe. It's nothing like being around the players and the coaches and seeing old friends and new friends and players we know. And we were able to just sort of tap in and chop it up with people. So it's such a great environment. And shout out to AEG and everyone at Coachella because they really are building that out into a really fun MLB sort of spring training type of vibe where you really get to see all these teams. And, they were asking me sort of some of my takeaways, and what really has resonated with me is the energy that Bruce Arena and Dave Sarakin and Shaw Reed Joseph had. It was like the sun was on their faces. They were hyped. It was almost like, we talk a lot about Rocky. It was almost like they just been getting right in training and now they're ready. And it just was great to see their energy and the positivity. And that was something that really stood out to me when I think about San Jose and the number of players they brought in. Even though they're familiar to Bruce, they're new to San Jose. So that was really great to see them and their energy and how they're feeling, and they're really starting to put together some pieces there that were very, very intriguing. Had a great conversation with Will Kuntz, and really was thinking about, asking him the really poignant question of, did he feel joy and happiness in winning, or did he feel more relief? And sometimes when you're in those positions, you feel a lot of relief because of the pressure to make something happen, particularly when we think about where that organization was a year ago. So I think they're going to be a team that is going to, they're sort of back on that. But, the one guy that had an all business before I get your thoughts, Jalil, on things on the East Coast in Florida, John Thorrington, LAFC, he was all business. It looked like he was there and he's focused. I clearly know that the title going across town down the 110 is bothersome to him. And I look at their acquisitions and I think they're really in a good spot. So those are some of the good things. A lot of good work. Fun seeing Omar Gonzalez. He was trying to miss a lot of preseason. I'm telling on your but Greg got him signed. So now he had to do a couple weeks. He was trying to slide in, but he knew he was down there at the bare minimum. So you got to at least give yourself a chance. So, but it was good to see folks for sure. But what are some of your thoughts on what you saw there down in Clearwater from your perspective?
Well, first of all, you said John Thornton is about business. It's like, duh. He's always about
He was
business.
walking fast and talking fast. He was serious. I was like,
He's
okay, my
always
God, it's coming
about
for
business.
everyone.
You could tell he's always been about business, always will be about business. Anybody that you have never, ever in your life seen with a shaggy haircut, ever. You have never seen John Thornton without a clean fade and a comb over to the knot. You've never seen him slipping. That is a man about business. So shout out to LAFC because the acquisitions that they made show you that they continue to stay about business. They've been one of the most competitive teams in the league since they came into it. So I'm very interested to see what the Black and Gold is going to do this season. Yeah, shout out to John Thorrington. When you look at things on the East Coast, because I've been pretty much all through Florida as far as preseason is concerned, Orlando, Tampa, Clearwater, Palm Beach, and I couldn't agree with you more in terms of really loving the vibes in terms of kind of like the reunion feel to it. You
Yep.
know,
Well said.
it
That's right.
it does humanize the process. It humanizes the fact that everybody's doing the same things for, however the allotted amount of time is, whatever it is,
That's well
5
said.
weeks now. And you can't skip parts of the steps. You can't skip anything that has to do with being a diligent pro, and I love to see people in their
Mm.
element, and I love to see people working their ass off, and that's what preseason is. So shout out to all the teams that are grinding right now because it's not easy, and this is the moment in preseason where it gets difficult to be away from your family, and preseason, quite honestly, sucks at this point in time. But when you get to like May, you're thankful that you put in all this work.
As we've talked about before, your ride or dies, the people who really love you, they sort of put their equity in this when they support you in preseason. It's a long grind, and you're right about the humanity and how everyone becomes the same because the grind is the same and the work is the same for sure. So no, that's very well put. And this time, next show, we'll be talking about match day one in 2025. So, but before we go ahead and have that curtain close all the way tight on the preseason, we had a chance to catch up with a great player, Canadian international Mark Anthony Kaye. He lifted the Supporters Shield with LAFC in 2019, represented his country 40 plus times, including a World Cup appearance, 15 goals, 26 assists in nearly 200 MLS appearances, and he made the move. He was part of Bruce Arena's Louis. He was in the luggage as Bruce and his team of coaches made the move from New England to the Bay in San Jose. So Mark Anthony Kaye, his fifth team in his journey. We had a chance to catch up with the Coachella, and I started our conversation by asking Jalil what an older Mac would tell his younger self about the preseason.
I think the biggest thing is preparing your body. I think when we're younger, you're so excited to get there that you might forget some steps. So, at my age, recovery is important.
You're young and old at the same time. That's what's crazy about sports.
Oh my gosh, right? But yeah, recovery is huge, and it's actually a real good time to get to know your teammates. And I think preseason, when you're able to go away on trips, that building the camaraderie and chemistry is massive because that lasts you for the 12 months at the season, right? So yeah, I would just tell the young Mac to really go out there and try to connect with his teammates more. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now, and it's enjoyable. So yeah.
How much are you enjoying being in this point in your career where you have clarity about who you are as a player, what you do on the field, and how you impact the game?
Yeah, it's great. It gives you confidence. You don't have to worry too much about what other people say.
Yeah.
You're kind of dialed in all the time. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses.
Yes.
And you look for those advantages all the time on the field to exploit your strengths.
Yep.
But yeah, it's great. Experience is a huge thing, and that's why you see so many teams have experienced guys in so many positions, because it helps others, right? Helps people, like I said, feel confident, feel secure on the field,
feel valued.
Valued, do difficult situations. So, my stage now, I'm really enjoying it. I'm relishing it. It's a new leadership position.
Yeah.
And you just got to embrace it and try to be the best you can. So, yeah.
How much of an advantage is, or how important is it for you to sort of be the guy, because you played with Bruce before, to sort of be the extra communicator, that extra sort of coach, if you will, in terms of helping everyone understand who doesn't know Bruce, what's expected, how you guys are going to play, and why you're going to play the way you play?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the standards Bruce wants, right? And as the older players on the team,
Communicating
it's a rise
Yeah.
every day.
Well said.
Bruce is the type of coach that a lot of people know is, he'll tell you certain things, but he expects you as a team to figure it out on your own. And that's why he builds his teams with the veteran guys, because we've been through it. We've been through the tough times, the good times, and we know what it takes. So every day, what it takes to create that standard. So that's my goal. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes you could come across the wrong way, but at the end of the day, it's for the benefit of the team and the clubs.
30th MLS season, I'm curious, is there a growing difference between playing in the Eastern Conference, between playing in the Western Conference? Is there anything, now that you've been on both sides of that you sort of can take back as like muscle memory, if you will, about the games, the cultures, the trips, any of that stuff?
I think just the weather is a huge factor. The East Coast, you got to deal with an array of different seasons. Is in the West Coast, it's kind of wet,
nice and nicer.
Each pros their different challenges. So East Coast, like I said, the travel's a little bit closer, the gyms are closer, but the weather's not great. And then West Coast got good weather, but the flights are a little bit longer. So for me personally, family wise, West Coast is better. But it's for everyone to decide on their own.
This part of preseason, what's your focus, as you are still got some meat on the bone in terms of getting ready? But the season is not that far away anymore. So what's the mindset you carry into phase 2+ in this preseason?
No, the biggest thing is just talking through things every day. Every little situation. Have communication to figure things out, because we need to be on the same page, right? And then each game, the intensity has to get higher and higher and higher, because when that first whistle blows for the season, it's
there's nothing like opening day, like
100 miles.
That's right. More than any other game we play.
To get that, replicate that in preseason, unless you're driving that. So I would say again, like the communication is here, talking all the time. I want us to be a team where we can talk about football. Sit down, talk about tactics. Just get on the field, do what the coach is saying, go home. It's like, are we looking at film together? Are we asking each other tough questions?
Are we solving problems ourselves?
Demanding more of each other. So that's we're trying to build a winning culture, and it starts with that little accountability stuff. So that, I think right now in preseason, that's the biggest thing.
I'll get you out on this. You've not your first rodeo. You've been in the league, you've been around, you've been traded, you've been a free, you've done all the things, if you will. What still brings you joy in this game and the process of getting ready for another season?
I just, I look back to when I was a kid and this is what I dreamed of doing. And I just have to remind myself that I'm living that dream, regardless of other situations around me that I can't control.
Right.
The young Mark Anthony, who was 9 years old, dreamt of being a professional soccer player, and I get to do that every day. It brings smiles to my family, my mom.
Yeah.
My wife is so supportive. So, and this is not going to last forever. So I really just got to enjoy it for as long as it is, and compete at the highest level as long as I can, because it's a blessing to be able to be a professional athlete. Not many people get to do it, so I can't take it for granted.
One more thing, I lied because you just touched on something, but your mother, how much you have so much respect and reverence, and the Mother's Day piece you did either last season or the season before, just it really got me emotional because you were expressing the gratitude for sacrifice as a single mother. Now that you have a few spins around the sun, right? How much do you think about those lessons as an advantage or a point of differentiation in your career and being able to have the long career that you have?
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it comes down to hard work, discipline, and hard work. My mom taught me those values, to go out and get what you want, and it's not always going to be easy, and it's not always going to go your way. But if you keep grinding, good things are going to be on the other side. And my mom works so hard for me and my brothers, so I have a good life, and a lot of it is because of her and the value she instilled in me, and that I went and instilled in my own life. Every day is a remembrance of what she's done for me, you know what I mean? So it's great.
Well, this year when we get around the Mother's Day, we'll link up before then, but I definitely want to be able to amplify that story, support you and everything. But Mark Anthony Kaye, you're one of the good dudes in the league, man. You're a blessing, dude. You're a blessing, man. Enjoy the sunshine. We thank San Jose and we thank Mac for his time. And clearly, Jalil, he's someone who has it. When you're around him, you feel the presence, you feel the professionalism, but you also feel like a player who now has the clarity in which you talked about in the beginning of the show to pull it all together in terms of who he is, what he brings to a team, his value. And I think a big part of San Jose's success will be his steadying play. What's your reaction to that interview in our time with Mac in preseason?
I mean, it's Mark Anthony Kaye. This is a guy who is very intentional. He's always thinking about ways to level up. He's always thinking about ways to be a better version of himself. What does he need to do training wise? How does he need to situate his family life so that he's an optimal pro, optimal husband, member of his community? The ability to make sure that you stay at that cutting edge is something that defines excellent professionals, and he has that. He's always looking for more. He's always, spending his time in ways where he's learning. He's adding new things to what he does on the field and off the field, and that very much came out in the interview. It very much comes out anytime you talk to him. So his very pointed focus on making sure that you don't just go about the status quo when it comes to building a new locker room, if you will. Sitting down and making sure you're talking and having the difficult conversation so that everyone is on that much closer of one accord. It really makes a difference. And that's why it's very crucial to have intelligent minds who are team guys, but also excellent ballers in your group. And he will be a piece to this team that will allow them to be able to maximize their potential, because this is a group here that Bruce Arena and company have assembled in a very short amount of time that can be very exciting in 2025 if they can put it all together and use all their experience, expertise, and ability on the field. So, like I've said before on our show, if there's one team that you need to be making sure you pay attention to this year that was completely done and dusted in 2024, it's San Jose. They can be something special
Agreed.
this year. I'm very interested to see how the prospect of what they're doing in preseason can turn into something great in 2025 as far as the season and competitions otherwise are concerned.
Here's the one thing we know: at Chicho Arango and Josef Martinez have scored a lot of goals in this league, and you will not step into any match without knowing that they're going to wreck your game plan if you don't account for them. And Max seems like the perfect stoic foil to all that you get with Chicho and Josef in a positive way in terms of the ballast that he provides. So really excited for Mac. We're going to see how San Jose. Shout out to Shaw Reed Joseph too. He was all smiles. Clearly, that group, Dave Sarakin, it was a lot of fun to see them, and Bruce as well. I think just really appreciative of the opportunity that they have. So we look forward to our little season preview next week. But that is a wrap on MLS 2025 preseason. If you like what you're listening to, and we know that you do, we love the comments. They're amazing to scroll through. We love it. You can subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Our handle is at New Ground Show. Up next, as we do every week, and it's Valentine's Day, Jalil and I will hand out our flowers. Don't go anywhere. New Ground returns after this. Welcome back. Our appreciation and our thanks and gratitude to Mark Anthony Kaye, Max stopping by, helping us cover New Ground as we wrapped up the 2025 MLS preseason. Match day 1 is here. We're looking forward to an exciting season. You already know what time it is. Every week we give out our flowers, our way of giving love to those who are excellent, and make sure that they know that we appreciate what they're doing both on and off the field. Last week, I gave my flowers to Marcus Rashford, his move from Manchester United to Aston Villa on loan. We wish him nothing but the best. New ground, new energy, new beginnings. We hope that all serves Marcus very well. This week, I'm bringing it back stateside. And if you listen to New Ground, you know we love father-sons. We love father-daughters. We love anyone who's connected to the game in that way. And my flowers this week going to Kellen LeBlanc, the son of Marlon LeBlanc, who got Philadelphia Union 2 into the MLS Next Pro final a year ago. His son Kellen is now a first-team player with the Philadelphia Union, and he scored his first international goal, albeit the last one in a substantial route of the Virgin Islands. But congratulations to Kellen and Marlon. The pictures were amazing. You could see the pride of Marlon, a great coach, ready to get back into the game here as a head coach very, very soon, and his son enjoying what it means to wear the red, white, and blue. So shout out to Kellen. Congratulations. The first of what we hope many international goals. He gets my flowers this week. Jalil, how about you?
Shout out to the LeBlanc family, because excellence runs in the blood, mixed with hard work. In that same game where Kellen finds the back of the net, you're also talking about another player who came through the MLS Academy pathway, but we're leaving the Philadelphia Union setup and we're going to one of my former clubs in the Columbus Crew. And we're talking about the homie Chase Adams, who banged 10 goals in that game. And I said it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
I said it.
7, 8, 9, 10.
I said it correctly. 10 goals in one game. You know how many training sessions people go through to score 10 goals in training? That is unprecedented stuff there. And talk about a young talent, talking about Chase Adams. So congratulations to him. But my flowers are going to the significant others who hold footballers down all over the world. Because guess what? We're in the week of Valentine's Day. So when you talk about preseason, when you talk about just what the experience is to be a footballer at the highest level, a lot of sacrifice goes into being either away from home or, sometimes you just have to take a nap in the middle of the day, where oftentimes someone else is either at work or they would be relying on you otherwise to do certain things in the middle of the day, where you have to just be about your recovery. So shout out to all of those significant others who continue to hold us down and or who have held us down in ways that make shooting for the stars as a professional athlete. So none of this happens without people that are behind you, in front of you, and to the side of you with love that sews it all together. So whether it's a fiance like my dear Aaron, whether it's a wife who's been standing by you for years on end or newly, whether it's a husband who has been there for you from day one or has just joined your side, whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, anything in between, somebody that is holding you down with sheer love. That is exactly what top footballers need to succeed and reach their dreams. And my flowers go to you today and always.
Oh man, that is so well said. A shout out to my Morgan, Sydney, Santiago, Sienna. You talk about being held down. That's really what it's all about. So every day is love. Every day is Valentine's Day on new ground, but we wish you and yours a little something extra. We hope Cupid is right on target.